Thank you so much for coming on. If you joined us for the Neighborhood Food Network portion of the call, uh, tonight that we want to talk about a couple of different things. We have Tammy on who wants to talk about how to get grants for growing food. We want to talk about managing your garden and labeling your food, like how to make sure that is all manageable. And then also we have a new page up on our website about how to purchase food safely. If you can't, most of us cannot grow all of our own produce. We do need to purchase it, and there's some very confusing labeling out there and things going on with labeling foods. We want to clear up some of those things as well. So first, can we start with Tammy? Tammy, do you wanted to talk about how to get some money from these grants that are being given out by the surprise U.S. government to improve the food supply?
I do.
Okay.
So I applied for a grant. So a lot of people don't know about this if you're not actively farming, ranching, growing. But I mean, it's kind of pointless if you've got a 6-acre lot. So you need a little bit of property because you have to have a sunny spot. But you can go to, okay, so somebody can type it for me. You can go to NRCS, which is the National Resources Conservation Services. It's like a branch of the USDA. Sorry,
So
it's a
.gov?
NRCS. Just Google NRCS, or here I will.
I think it's
I got it.
nrcs.gov. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So on there, and you can also Google this. You can look up the Enviro Quality Incentive Program, EQIP. No U. EQIP, but no U. EQIP. EQIP program. Each state handles it differently. My state is Washington. I'm outside of Seattle, about 45 minutes, depending on the traffic, about 25 miles outside of Seattle. And I applied for a grant for a high tunnel. And a high tunnel is a giant greenhouse, but you don't have a floor on it. It's just a big metal frame, and you put plastic over it, you know, poly. In my case, you put two layers of poly, and you inflate between them, and then it puts like an insulator in there. And what it does, and you have doors, you know, both ends, and what it does is it raises the ambient temperature inside your greenhouse 20 degrees, and it raises the soil temperature 20 degrees. So what it does is it helps you get an extra couple months of grow season year round. And so I live in the Puget Sound, and I don't know if you guys have been watching the weather, but gosh, we've been having suicide weather here. We're not having summer. We've only had 5 hours at 70 degrees or more this year. I mean, it's middle of June. It's been nuts. Right now it's gray and overcast. Yesterday it poured down rain. I mean, we're just starting to lose it here. So normally, you know, we'd have all this stuff ripe, and we don't. My high tunnel is not finished yet. My husband has to do the build on most everything because I've got a really damaged knee and I can't get on a ladder and I can't dig with a shovel. So I'm the gopher and he's the builder, but I got the grant. And what it does is it pays per square foot for these high tunnels. And this is one. And there's also another one. So if you're in Arizona, maybe your problem is lack of water. So it'll help you like manage. Maybe you have a program in Arizona that'll help bring water or irrigation so that you can grow because it's too darn hot and dry there. But you need to look and see what each state has because they get to pick and choose. In my state, I was shocked to hear, so I'm on a couple of groups, and I was shocked to hear that, you know, Seattle area is one of the top most expensive places to live in the United States. And the real estate market here is more insane than anywhere. And they only pay $3.54 a square foot, not cubic, square foot, that's, you know, footprint for these high tunnels. In Alabama, they're paying $3.70 a square foot. What's the cost of living in Alabama, right? So it'll pay for a portion of it. And there's all kinds of programs. Whenever you get an application, it's not that hard. You have to get a farm number. They'll assign you one. And you might think that's silly. Well, I've only got a half-acre lot. Why am I getting a farm number? Well, you're doing it because if you get that farm number, then you can apply for this grant. and they'll help you through it. These people are really super helpful. The conservation people are really nice. So I did the application, and then they came out, and different states have different rules. My state said, Tammy, you can't have a greenhouse that big because you're not already farming it. So the area that I had already encompassed into a garden was 30 by 50 feet. And I could have gone 30 by 60. I actually did go 30 by 60 and moved a shed, but they said you didn't already have crops there. So we're going to approve you a 30 by 50, right? So in my state, so you need to look before you get anybody out there, because anybody can go, shit, they're going to be here next week. Quickly rototill that and throw some onions there, put something there that shows, or put plant starts, because wherever you have a crop growing, pick your crop, not marijuana. You don't have any pot plants anywhere near. I don't care if it's legal. They have a thing about that. But as long as you have a crop in the ground, then you can measure it off, and you kind of look, Google and look at high tunnel sizes, and they're usually either 20-foot wide or 30-foot wide. So is your garden 30-foot wide? Well, you better get it 30-foot wide. And how long? You can go up to 100 feet long. So you decide what area you're going to do, and then when they come out,
how tall are they? How high? Somebody asked that question.
Well, there's different ones. We have a semi-gable because we get snow here, and it's different. This year we didn't get jack for snow.
Can you say what that means? Semi-gable?
3 years ago.
Can you say what that means?
Semi-gable is the shape. It's
like
shape.
It's like this, right?
So a Quonset hut is kind of round like this.
Is this a
semi-gable
is this a gabled one that I'm showing here?
Let me look. I can't pull it up. Hold on one second. Yes, that's a gabled one right there. So what the purpose of those is that you can leave that up, by the way. That would be great if you did.
Okay.
If you have snow in your area, you want one of those gabled, because the snow will slide off of them. Okay. If you have a Quonset shape and you get heavy snow, it's just going to collapse. So what you have to do,
you just mean by Quonset shape, you just mean a dome?
It's like half moon. It's like a half moon.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's just going to collapse.
So then it will just collapse. It's too much weight. But like in Arizona, okay, Quonset's fine. If you needed that, of course, in Arizona, if you need something like that during the winter in Arizona.
Right, but how high are these? These are like what, 15 feet high? What's the height?
My Quonset, or my gabled one, is 15 feet high. If you're a Quonset, you can go 10 to 12. It's different styles, so you kind of shop around. And like I said, when you go to apply, you ask them and you say, hey, I don't know any companies around, and they usually have a list. If not, I put my email in there. You can ask me and I'll tell you, how to hook up. Yes, pollinators can get in. Okay, so look at the picture that is being shown right there on the high tunnel. Okay, look at the side. Do you see a piece of wood that's like 3 foot up off the ground? On each side. Okay, those are called roll-up sides. And what happens is there's a crank. Okay, you don't need power. There's a crank, and it has a steel rod that goes the length of the tunnel, and you crank it up for ventilation. And then you can also put vents up above. You can have automatic fans. You can fancy them up. Everything.
And you need that. You need that because when it's even 80 degrees out, it's going to heat up to like 90 something inside of that tunnel unless you air it out.
Well, are you growing tomatoes or are you growing broccoli? So if you're growing broccoli, yeah, you need to air it out. If you're growing tomatoes, leave it alone. Tomatoes, basil, watermelons, cantaloupe, so you really have to decide what's the crop that you need. Here, we constantly need more heat. We can't grow tomatoes and peppers worth of crap. The joke in the Puget Sound is, I spent $63. I've got 2 tomato plants, I've got 2 tomatoes that turned ripe. Because it's so cold, and it is cold this year. I wish I could show you. Actually, I think I can. I'll show you my high tunnel. I'm going to go unplug here and walk over.
Here, I'll stop
and show you what I've got.
Do they do these grants for people who live within city limits, or is it like more of a rural?
You don't have to be rural. No, you don't have to be rural. Okay, I'm walking across my messy house.
What was the minimum? What was the minimum amount of land you had to have?
Well, it wouldn't make sense to do anything if you didn't have over a quarter acre. I mean, look at your footprint, look at your yard. Do you have enough room for something 20 or 30 foot wide? Do
Oh,
you
there
have
you go.
enough room for something 40? Do you see my high tunnel? Can anybody see
Yep,
it?
we see it. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Okay, it
That's great.
started. So
Yeah, you just
my
haven't covered
sides
it.
are
You
4
just
foot
haven't-
high. I don't know what you're seeing. Do you see that little white tent inside my high tunnel?
Yep.
That's where I'm trying to protect my tomatoes that I decided, oh, it's finally warm enough. I'll put them up. Ha ha. Mother Nature, except it's not Mother Nature. It's probably Bill Gates spraying the skies doing this crap. I'm just sure of it, by the way. But anyway, so my husband's got that much done. We've got to put the wood on the opposite side. So we have the baseboard, which is the lower board. And then we have the, what they call the hip board, which is the middle board. And that's where it'll roll up to. And then everything under the baseboard is a low spot in our ground. You can't have a low spot. You have to fill it in, right? So we'll be filling that in with dirt, and we have been hauling pickup truck after truck. We're kind of at a disadvantage. We don't have a tractor. We don't have a dump bed. We don't have any of those things. So it's just my little old 23-year-old Toyota Tundra pickup truck taking half a ton at a time, you know? So anyway, when that has a cover on it.
Sammy, Daniela asked, does your area have to be zoned for agriculture?
Not at all. So like I'm in King County, that's Seattle. Okay. I'm in Seattle. There is actually, you'd have to check. I mean, 99.9999999. These are exempt because what they are is just steel hoops. Well, 2 3/4 steel hoops with plastic on them. So they're considered a temporary structure, and they're also exempt from all those rules because they're used to grow a food crop. Okay. So it's kind of cool.
it's a
It doesn't
grant.
cost you anything.
And it's a grant. You don't have to pay. It's a grant. You don't have to pay it back.
Nope. The only time you have to
How
pay
long?
it back.
How long did it take? How long did it take to go through this process for you?
Well, it depends on when you apply and when your state ends a grant cycle and when they start. I applied like in October, so I was ahead of the game for the spring cycle, and then they approved it in the summer. So it took me about 15 months, but it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter. I mean, you apply this week, you're ahead of any game. So some things that they look for, like I said, so when they grade you, they look for, do you already have the crops? So these are the important things. Do you already have crops growing? Do you have a diversity of crops growing? I was showing them, I'm like, okay, so I've got some medicinal herbs here, and I've got some culinary herbs here. And look, I've got these little cucamelons. I don't know if you've seen those little tiny miniature things that look like absolutely miniature watermelons. And I said, you know, I've got an idea that I could sell these to bars, you know, for their food drinks. And sell them for 25 or 50 cents a cucamelon, you know. And then I've got borage flowers, you know, for the flower decorations on them, you know. So those are called added value crops. So, you know, grow some calendula flowers or something, right? Food crop flowers, nasturtiums that a fancy restaurant could put on their salad, right? So think of all those flowers, those edible flowers and those edible little foo-foo things. So those are called added value. And then if you have a crop that, you know, it's like, well, I'm growing a surplus of tomatoes. So I thought I would use my cottage license to make homemade salsa, and we will be selling salsa in the off season when tomatoes aren't ripe. So if I had a huge high tunnel, which I don't, mine is 30 by 50, that's 1,500 square feet. That's not as huge as you think. You don't want to waste the space in there. Huh?
Can you repeat the name of the grant? I was putting my check up.
I put the link to the grant in there. I'll
In the
post
chat.
it, yeah, in the chat. I put the link directly to the grant.
You want to go to your state. You want to type in Washington State NRCS or Washington State EQIP or Arizona State EQIP or what, you know, because it's state specific. When I looked at Arkansas because my sister lives there. They don't have high tunnel in Arkansas. They have irrigation and conservation. So they'll help you like with drainage if your farm or your homestead has areas that flood. So each state has different things. Most of them have these high tunnels. so anyway, that's
Tammy,
something. So,
Tammy, I
yes,
have a question. When you said
Yeah.
they came to look at your crops, do you have to have the entire 20 by 30 planted, or can you have it just tilled on part, boxes on the other part? I mean, how
No.
much is that?
you
Okay.
have to have plants in it. Not
In the
all
whole-
states do this.
In
You
the
have to
whole
have
20 by
something.
30? She's asking in the whole 20 by 30 area?
Yep.
You have to have something planted?
Yep.
Okay.
So
okay.
you can go, like I said, you can do, anybody can do this. Okay. So for Fast and Dirty, if you needed somebody to come look at it, fill out your application, get it mailed off, right? Get your farm number, ask them how to do that, get that all done. And then if you hear that they're going to show up and you're like, oh crap, anybody can throw down a load of cardboard, just lay down flat cardboard right over your grass, right? And throw dirt right on top of it. And you could run down to, I don't care, go down to Home Depot, pick up some neonic plants, whatever, temporarily for the day. And you can throw them in there and say, well, I just planted these, broccoli starts or what have you, I mean, if you really needed to, if it was an emergency. I already had mine growing, but those are some ideas I had when people said, well, I don't have that growing. I'm like, okay. If you look up the term lasagna gardening, that's where they don't till or anything. They simply throw cardboard on top of the grass, and then they throw rotten food and topsoil and manure on top of that, sticks and stones, and and then they throw plants on top of it. It's kind of like a flat hugelkultur. And so I'm going to do some more of that in my front yard because I have my orchard. So my property is like 1.8 acres. In my front yard, I have a little mini orchard. And also some Christmas trees, because I got those for like $1 a piece. So I planted, I just kind of diversify. So I have elderberries. I have blueberries. I had blueberries in my garden area. I had my son and his friend dig them up because that's precious space. I had the most perfect space, a full sun behind, in the very far back corner, and we planted them out in the open. And then elderberries, I have those all in my front, along a fence line where the road is. And I have raspberries, a really good type of raspberry. And I have my orchard and those trees. I also have red currants, comfrey, which is really good for healing wounds, sores, and swelling. And also the flowers to sell to those added value. I hate that term, but so what grows here? So I've looked at some of the native nurseries. Well, you're out there hiking, you're like, darn, I sure like these black caps. There's actually nurseries where they sell the native stuff, and it grows because it's native. So I put the red currants out front, and then the elderberries that we have are the ones that are, they have like a gray or white on top of the berries. Some of them on the other side of the country are just black colored. Ours are called blue elderberries. So I've got those. And in the back, I've got the blueberries. And then I've got perennial stuff. So, I like to grow things that are the gift that keeps giving.
Hang on one second. I just want to do a little plug for the berries. It's easier to grow than most people think. They do take years. Okay. So any fruit trees or berry trees, you want to plant them in the fall or the winter. Like in some areas, it's December. You don't want to put those trees in the ground.
Depending on your climate. You're in California.
Yeah. No,
she's in North Carolina.
I'm in North Carolina. But yeah, it depends
You
on the
moved?
climate. But yeah, we moved. We've got 6.5 acres near Asheville in North Carolina. So we are growing food, and we've got animals and all kinds of stuff. So I just want to put that out there because a lot of people think fruit trees spring. For most places, fruit trees and fruit bushes are fall, and they take years to grow, 3 to 7 years in some cases. And you just get some bird netting. You got to get some bird netting to cover once they start, making little berries, and because you don't want the birds to get at them. And things like elderberry, you're actually growing your own medicine. It's immune boosting. It's great during the winter time. The elderberries are just like this, one of the most profitable crops now, I'm hearing. If you wanted to plant, 15 elderberry bushes, if you have a field or something, just the market for elderberry syrup right now is going nuts. And there's a whole market around that.
You can make cuttings and sell the cuttings. But my elderberry bushes I planted last year. I think I planted the little cuttings.
Mhm.
And this year, I just went out there, I'm not gonna get any fruit on them. It must have been 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I planted little cuttings. They were only like this big. They're now over 6 feet high over my head. I'm not gonna get fruit on them, but my other elderberry bushes that I planted 3 years ago are getting loaded with fruit. And I have 9 aronia berry bushes that I have to put bird netting on them, but they're just going nuts. And I've only been living here for 3 years. So like Zed said, if
Yeah.
you want to start
No,
growing
it's
this
a
stuff,
good
get
thing.
it in the ground now.
Yeah, get it in the ground and, but it is better for some of these fruit and berry trees to plant them in the fall. So
Well,
just
I
don't
mean,
feel
this
like,
year,
yeah, don't feel like, oh, it's too late. I have to do it. No, some things it's not, summertime is not the time to plant some things. Somebody's mentioning something about moringa and there was a comment before that. What was the comment just before the moringa comment? I wanted to
Do
say
not
something.
plant blackberries near raspberries. Blackberries
Why?
are a host to beautiful bright orange fungus.
Oh, okay. I've got to move my blackberry
What kind of
bush.
blackberries? We have all the kinds. I don't know who all's from my area. I'm in the Seattle area. I don't want to be here. I can't stand it up here as far as the political climate, but we
Right.
have Himalayan blackberries, Cascade blackberries, evergreen blackberries. So we have 3 different kinds.
Great.
The
I just
kind that
planted
is
3
Cascade
black
is
raspberry bushes and I have blackberries in the woods like
Tammy,
crazy.
I love the post that you made on Facebook. I'll never forget it about how you went out and picked blackberries. You got like 50 pounds of blackberries and you mixed it in with ground turkey meat and you made your own dog food for your dogs. I thought that was so awesome.
do.
It's like you are the best dog mom. Really.
I have right now, I have well, I raise pedigreed Labradors. I have my mama Delta, her daughter who was that was the Veterans Day dogs. She'll be 2 this Veterans Day. The Veterans Day litter, she's out with a handler on the road, winning some points so that she can be a champion so that people, there's a lot of people that expect champions. But I have pedigreed English Labs. I have 2 puppies now that are my keeper puppies, and they are cuter than a bug in a rug. They're 4.5 months old. And Tucker is a little black male that just wants to be near you. And Gracie is full of piss and vinegar. And she's, boy, you better not get between her and the food, I mean, Tucker can't. I can stick my hand down there and grab food out of her mouth. But if Tucker does, blah, blah, blah. So she's a real, well, she's a bitch, right?
Yeah.
Female dog. But,
and just
so I
FYI,
make homemade dog food.
For people who are interested in, if you do have a couple acres or a little farmstead and you want to make a little money off of raising animals, there are people who make a couple $1,000s a year just from selling, puppies or from selling goats or rabbits or, whatever that is. You can, look at this as not just, oh, I'm going to get animals, for prepping and for food. Right now you may not need 40 rabbits like I think I might have any day now. Just way too many rabbits. You can also, I've got to find a venue for selling them. I'm gonna, amp that up. I heard this new app called Farmish that we had last week might be a way to connect with people to, to sell excess of what you have. So, all right. So we wanted to touch on, Tammy, do you have any other burning share? Because we got to get onto a few other topics. That was very informative and very useful. Anybody else have any other questions for Tammy? Anybody?
I'm sorry. And do what?
Did anybody else have any other questions for Tammy before we move on to another topic? No? Okay. That was very useful, Tammy. I'm definitely
going to find me on Facebook, you guys.
Okay.
I don't approve anybody unless they send me a note why they wanted to be my Facebook friend. My Facebook name is Tammy, Tami, and the last name is Rain Mom, like Rain Man. My son was vaccine injured. He's on the spectrum. So I became the Rain Mom many years ago. You can find me there, or you can also look at my very defunct, never updated page called Fraser Wellness Farm, where I talk about pesticides and healthy diet. And I've recovered myself from the symptoms of what they call atypical MS and a Parkinson's-like disorder, fibromyalgia. I had a stuff in my brain. I lost all my short-term memory for 2.5 years. and I had these falling episodes where I destroyed my knees, which I need to have surgery. I've been putting it off, and then COVID came, and it's a long story, but I recovered myself from all these like multiple autoimmune disorders. I had vitiligo starting above my eyes, and just on and on and on and on and on, hypothyroid, all that. I'm still fat, but hey, but diet, the Walls Protocol, really, really good information in the book for anybody. I mean, there's certain books that I would say are ones that you need to keep around for, hardbacks. And Nourishing Traditions is one, because it teaches you how to preserve and ferment food. The Walls Protocol explains a lot, even though you might not have an autoimmune disorder or MS, it explains the diet and the reasons why and the studies behind it. There's so much research in that book. Terry Walls is a freaking genius. She's also a little aspy, I think, but she's an absolute genius. So I really recommend that as another one of those. You talked about certain books to get, and I love your ideas, but she does a lot. I'm not promoting Terry Walls because she pays me. Actually, I pay her to continue to be one of her Walls practitioners trained, but I just think that she's really brilliant, and I've been reading biomedical research for over 20 years. So I appreciate brilliance, and I really like her. So good book for anybody that's sick. You can get them well.
Thank you,
with
Tammy.
food.
Can you remember to post the links to Nourishing Traditions and your Facebook page?
I put her Facebook link down there.
Okay, great. That'd be great. All right. Well, thank you very
Just
much.
remember to
Tammy. That
send
was
me a message and
super
say, hey, I
useful.
want to be your friend because then,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me
So
know
don't
why,
forget to
because half
go-
the people want to be my friend because they want to sell zeolites or something,
I know. Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. No MLM selling in here. Okay. So go to NRCS or your state plus the word equip, EQIP, and check out the grants that are available in your state. Somebody asked, is it only for high tunnels? No, it's not. It's depending on your state and what they're supporting as far as agriculture goes in your state. So, and this is important that you mention this because the US government, the USDA, surprisingly just approved hundreds of millions of dollars in grant money and small loans for things like $300 million for transitioning to organic,
I saw that.
155 million for, hang on, let me finish, for urban agriculture, $60 million for senior centers to get access to farmers market food, $40 million for produce as prescription. So, I mean, like if you're a doctor right now and you wanted to do a study saying like you have always wanted to prove that your patients got better from diabetes because you had them eat organic, fruits and vegetables for, whatever, 30 days straight, and they became non-diabetic anymore, you can actually get money to do that now. There are grants that as long as you collect data, there's money to do that now. So please do check out the USDA grant pages as well. You can just Google that. Yes, Deb, Tim.
They have grants to get organic certification to help you do that.
Yes.
I don't want to do it because I'm sick of paperwork. I mean, I did have a kid on the spectrum, the IEPs, the fights with insurance. I'm done.
Yeah.
But you can, if you don't mind doing the paperwork, they'll help you with that. It's really cool. So lots of stuff there. Thanks for letting me butt in and provide you some information.
Oh my God,
You're
you're
in South
awesome.
Carolina.
Super
Hey, I'm
useful.
gonna come
Okay, so we
visit.
got to move. Thank you so much, Tammy. We got to move on to Anne. Can you show the new page on our website? We just want to talk quickly about purchasing food and some of the if, ands, or buts around that. And then Anne, I don't know if you wanted to talk about labeling or not. I don't know if we have time before 9:30. We only have like 6 minutes left. Okay, so this is a page on the Dirty Dozen page. Can you scroll down a little bit? Did you add the labels on there? I didn't get a chance to see. Can you scroll? Okay, yes. Okay, great. So scroll back up to the top. So this is a page on our resource page that just talks about different kinds of food, because the first thing we hear from people is, oh my gosh, I cannot afford to buy organic, or I can't grow enough food to feed my family. So this is just a little, a page that I'm on my phone right now, so I cannot read the fine print. But I just want to capture this by saying a lot of people talk about the environmental working group, Clean 15 and Dozen, lists. And this is because a lot of people cannot afford to buy organic, all of their food, or maybe let's just say they're not prioritizing organic. In some cases, they can afford it. They're just not prioritizing organic. Either way, we understand it is definitely more expensive up front. We feel it is like we can't afford to not buy organic because we have seen the medical bills in our family decline to practically zero when we buy organic, right? And we have no longer been spending $15,000 a year just on co-pays for our 3 kids because they were getting sick all the time. That's not happening anymore. We hardly spend any money on doctors. So we buy all organic, and I don't have to memorize these lists, but some people really want these lists. And we have to say that we do not agree with the Environmental Working Group listing sweet corn on the Clean 15 group. We have told them this for probably 7 years now, and they continue to list it. But I do think they have a caveat on their list that says now non-GMO. And this is because Syngenta has 12 different varieties. This was maybe 2 years old data of GMO sweet corn. So we do not agree with having sweet corn on this list at all. And we just wanted to clarify that on our website.
And
Also,
papaya.
yeah, you need to have non-GMO pineapple as well. I don't know if I can't read if you put that on there, Anne.
No, I couldn't remember what the other one was, but
Yeah, it's pineapple, because they have a pink pineapple out now that is GMO. So, and non-GMO papaya. Now, when we say non-GMO, we're clarifying that because we don't want people to consume the GMOs. If you want to avoid that, we want you to know so you can avoid that. But the GMO aspect doesn't necessarily contribute to the toxicity as far as chemicals go. Some crops are not genetically engineered to withstand toxic chemicals. So they could be GMO and not have other toxic chemicals. So we just want to clarify that EWG is mostly looking at these lists for the toxic chemicals.
so then we have the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, they don't consider glyphosate, which I have a huge problem with. Yeah, then there's the Dirty Dozen. These are the ones that are going to have higher levels of toxic chemical. Strawberries is at the top of the list. So if you take your kid out for ice cream, just don't get the strawberry ice cream, and if it's not organic. And I can't actually read these other, and with the other,
Kale, collard, and mustard greens, nectarines,
oh,
apples.
apples can have up to 52 different pesticides on them, according to Pesticide Action Network.
And I know celery is really, really bad.
Yeah. Hot peppers, cherries, peaches, pears, yeah, celery, tomatoes, even. That's so unfortunate. And I don't know if you know this, but peppers actually from Mexico and South America, some of them are GMO. So it's not, we didn't specify this on the list, but they could also be GMO. So you just want to eat organic as much as possible. For me, that makes it all easier. Okay, can you scroll down? So we also have on our Moms Across America website, and we've now added it to the Neighborhood Food Network website, some clarification about purchasing food that is as glyphosate free as possible. And I really think it's kind of a misnomer now to say glyphosate free, because there's glyphosate contaminating so many things now. I think it's a little bit fraudulent to say glyphosate free unless there's zero glyphosate in there. And some of the glyphosate, or not, glyphosate tested or glyphosate free or whichever labels, can you scroll down a little bit more so we can see all the labels, may allow up to 10 parts per billion of glyphosate. So they're not necessarily glyphosate free, right? So the glyphosate residue free one, I believe that is the case there. Glyphosate tested, I don't know if it's 5 parts per billion or 10 parts per billion. Now, definitely, 1 or 2 parts per billion is better in general than 54 parts per billion, which can be found, or 1,000 parts per billion, which can be found in conventional food. But low levels are still a problem. They are endocrine disrupting, and low levels can still, be very problematic. So what we really urge is for people to purchase food where the farmer first would be the ideally, if you can't grow it yourself, the farmer, and they've told you, they've looked you in the eye, they do not use glyphosate. They don't use dicamba, 2,4-D, atrazine, all these other different types of chemicals. And those are going to be the kind of farmers that farm biodynamically, like Demeter. You see the one in the black in the upper right there, that's biodynamic farming, or regenerative organic. We actually, Ann, we got to add regenerative organic on here. And we also need
Okay.
to add real organic project. There's the real organic project, yeah. But keep in mind that none of these labels test for heavy metals. I'm so sorry to say that none of them, Real Organic Project, I don't believe, no, Biodynamic does not either, Regenerative Organic International, and heavy metals have been a major problem in organic farming. And this is because we believe, the farmers tell me, the experts farmers tell me that we all know that toxic chemicals, and synthetic chemical fertilizers are not allowed in organic farming, right? Like straight up nitrogen, straight up potassium, that's allowed in conventional farming. So they use that. Organic farmers have to use manure. And when they are allowed to get manure from confined animal feeding operations, which are animals fed GMOs sprayed with glyphosate. So that glyphosate goes into the manure, and glyphosate chelates, it grabs onto heavy metals. And so it can grab onto heavy metals, and it can move the heavy metals through, brain membranes and through plant membranes and, all that kind of stuff. So, and they can collect, because heavy metals are also in petroleum products, right? In fertilizers with petroleum in them as well. So they could also be in, conventional. So, and I'm not sure about chemtrails and nanoparticles, but, I just want to make a caveat here. I just want people to be aware that none of these brands really focus on heavy metals at all. And we have been trying very hard to get people to focus on that. And if people know anybody, a billionaire or millionaire or two, that would like to support us with funding, we want to get testing done that includes heavy metals and a variety of different pesticides, as well as nutrient density. So that's something that is really important to us. So we just wanted you to know about these labels. And USDA organic, things like, okay, so just few more tips on that. If you could scroll up a little bit more. USDA organic, the product needs to be, I believe it's in the fine print here, but like 90 or 95% organic in order to be labeled USDA organic, 75% to use the word organic on the package. So that means 25% of it could be GMO, even if they have the word organic on it. But if they say 100% organic, then it needs to be 100% organic. The other labels, let me see, the certified naturally grown seal, that's something that's, just more, supposed to be more natural. We don't prefer the word natural because it could mean all kinds of things. Demeter, like I said, is biodynamic. Glyphosate residue free is tested for glyphosate, and it has to have less than 10 parts per billion on there. Oregon Tilth is an organic certifier, which is also very good. And CCOF, an organic certifier, very good. And traditional, what is that? Tropical Traditions?
Healthy Traditions.
Okay, Healthy Traditions is glyphosate tested. They were the first ones to come out with that. So that's just a little rundown on all those labels. Any questions?
So Thomas had something to say. You'll have to unmute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
One of the things I want to say is there's an organization, I think it's in Wisconsin, called Cornucopia Institute.
Yes.
And
Yep.
right now they are seeking 3 board members, and their purpose to exist is to check on organic standards and make sure they're not fudging or changing them in a bad way. So if anybody has an interest, they can go to Cornucopia Institute and apply to be a board member. They require a few things. They require you to go to their meeting later this year in Michigan, but if you're approved as a board member, they pay for the transportation, lodging, and food. So
Very cool.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. So if anybody has the interest to do that good work of helping them preserve organic standards to be real and true, that's their work, and they're looking for 3 board members.
Thank you, Thomas. Thomas, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really important information. I really appreciate people who are like good at just digging in, right? Researching, who want to be watchdogs for organic food. It's so important to do that right now because so many big players have gotten on the scene and they
Yeah.
want to weasel their way around the organic standards. And there was one request I made when I was at, I think it was Eco Farm or one of those, big conferences where there were the real organic people on one side, and then there was regenerative organic on the other side, and then there was the organic people, and they were all sort of arguing about the standards. I'm like, can you guys just work together and just have one standard? You know what I mean? Like, why can't USDA organic evolve to incorporate regenerative organic? Why can't USDA organic evolve to incorporate,
See, there
what
it
the
is.
real organic
There it
question-
is. Excuse me,
You know?
there it is. Apply to join our board. See it?
Great.
There.
Yes.
I
thank
forgot I
you.
was still screen sharing, but I was gonna put the link in the thing. I'll put the link.
Okay.
I've
Thank you so
applied,
much.
but I've applied, but I don't know that I'll be approved, but I have applied.
I think I'm going to apply.
Yeah.
I just
I'm-
want to say what I said before in another meeting is that what Zen said about reducing medical bills, I'm going to bore people who've heard this. I haven't spent money on medical bills, over-the-counter prescription drugs, or used my health insurance for over 50 years.
Yay, Thomas.
I'm 72 years old. I am on the North Shore of Oahu, and I still surf regularly some of the steepest, most dangerous, most fun waves on the planet. And I have spent 50 years eating organic food and making food my medicine. So what Zen's talking about is real because I'm living proof of it. Now I'll be quiet now.
No, well, that's awesome. We can't hear that often enough, can we, people?
And I
That is
think
just-
I asked you last time if you
so
would
great.
talk to my brother.
I would talk to him.
I've
Absolutely.
had, yeah.
Anybody can try to, leave me a message on Facebook if I'm not your friend, and just leave one on my page. And I hope
Great.
to see it. So yeah, I'll talk to anybody.
What's your last name, Thomas, that people can reach you on
No,
Facebook?
correct?
Milsarek, Milcarek.
Great, Thomas.
Yeah.
And you do not look 72 years old at all.
Yeah,
So,
it's
amazing.
yeah.
You look so healthy. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Okay, so Cornucopia, really amazing organization. I think probably the most hard hitting on protecting organic standards of all of the organizations out there. Really, very careful about researching what's going on with organic, and really appreciate what Cornucopia has done. Okay, well, I think we need to wrap up now. It's 9:37. I again apologize to everybody for being late. The internet service for my hardwire, it was just being serviced at this
You
time.
know, want
so-
me to show, I was gonna just show some pictures.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sure. Yep. Okay. Yeah, and Natalie recommends Rodale Institute. They're very good too. Yes.
And Thomas, could you put your link to your Facebook page in? Because I just looked your name up and there's a bunch of you.
There's a bunch of you.
I could tell from one of the profile pictures that this man was probably over 250 pounds, so I figured that wasn't you.
All right. So
Anyway,
go ahead and show your,
if you-
Anne, you want to show your garden pictures while he does
So
that?
I was just gonna show some quick pictures. I went out today. This was a herb garden that I started. I got some free pavers, whipped this up. You can see that I've been using a lot of weed killer in my lawn. I'm just kidding. But so this is my hoop house like Zen had, that I have beans starting to come up. The garlic with the garlic scapes, and we were talking earlier about with the garlic scapes, it make fantastic pesto with walnuts. This is my little strawberry patch, and I've been picking strawberries like crazy. And I'm telling you, there's nothing better than a strawberry. This is
And
my
you started that strawberry patch, what, a year ago or 2 years ago?
last year.
Last year. Wow. Only 1 year.
Strawberries they grow. I have bird net. You can't really see, but I have bird netting over the whole thing.
Right,
And
okay.
so I'm very excited. I planted 3 years ago. I planted my apple trees, and this year I'm getting a bunch of apples. So I took a picture of one of my little apples. And I have 2 cherry trees, and that's the only cherry I could find. So I'm going to get 1 cherry this year. but I planted those trees last year, so I wasn't really expecting
Yeah,
anything.
it takes,
Oh,
yeah,
one
it
of the
takes.
things, so here's my garden from the back view. This was all lawn. This
Woo!
is 50 by 100 feet. So now I'm thinking,
Beautiful.
but what I wanted to show you is that my friend Will is leaving his farm acreage that he was leasing, and he's giving away all these pots. So I took a bunch of pots, and I originally put in a little tomato bed, but I didn't have any borders, no wood on the sides of it. So I'm just putting pots alongside of it. And I'm sitting here pointing at my screen. I have all this planted with green beans over here, more green beans here. Tomato plants, but you can just grow so much food in pots.
Yeah, guys, use what you got. And if you
Yeah.
got pots, use pots. Absolutely.
My-
Don't worry so much about plastic and like leaching, into the soil, all that kind of stuff. Usually the plant that you have is going to be smaller than the area that you're growing in. And I don't know, I just use what you have, I would say.
Right, and I didn't take a picture, so this is my little kale patch. I have all these different kinds of kale, which I come out here every morning and I just pick some leaves. And then I go over to my little spinach bed and I pick spinach and mustard greens and I pick all that, and then I go back into the kitchen and I make my smoothie.
It's
And-
so rewarding to do that. It's wonderful.
And so here's a little teepee I built with some bamboo poles. These two trellises here, I found them up in my garage. So, and what I didn't show is my friend Michelle called me yesterday as she was driving home. Oh, this is my beans climbing up the,
Yay.
so hopefully. And then I have a little broccoli that I need to go out and pick. And there's my potato patch. Oh, that's my woods. I have a little
many-
wooded area.
How many potatoes do you think you're going to get out of that potato patch? Is this your first time growing them?
No, last year I grew not as many and I probably got, I don't know, 50, 60. So I'm thinking
Okay.
what I'm gonna need to do is start weighing them. And last but not, oh, this was a boot. This was my ex-husband's boot and I turned it into a succulent planter. But but Michelle called me up last night. She goes, there's some people got some stuff at the end of the driveway. I drove down there. There was a old fireplace box, old rusted out fireplace box with the little slide to get the ashes out. I brought it home. I just planted it with a bunch of lettuce tonight.
Oh,
And I
great.
didn't take a picture of it. It's really cool. It's all rusted and, oh, there it is. I did get it. So I just filled it up and planted it with lettuce seeds. So
Yeah.
so as a gardener, you start to look at anything.
As a
Anything you
planter.
can, can it grow something?
Some of the funniest planters I ever saw was when somebody took a clothesline and hung old jeans off of it and filled up the jeans with dirt so you could
Oh,
see the saggy butts and everything. And then at the top of the jeans, they put plants in them. So these plants, the old jeans were planters. It's so funny. You can plant in practically anything. So thank you for sharing that,
That's
Anne.
funny.
Yeah, yeah, you can.
And do you have cattle panel arches?
Yes,
That's
what
what
she
those
showed.
were. And I have
Yeah.
2 of them now. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking of building another one and get into a small hoop house because if I get a 20-foot hoop house, it's going to take up way too much room. But now you got
Yeah,
me thinking,
no,
I'm going to
people
cut
make
down
hoop
some more
houses out of
trees.
those. They just make hoop houses by, using those and 2x4s at the bottom and connective hardware and then throw plastic on them.
Yep,
Works really well.
yep.
Last year I did squashes. It just looked pretty. I saw something on the internet. I saw this giant hoop, and it had all these squashes dangling down. I thought, well, hell, I can do that. So all I had was spaghetti squashes, but I have a picture of my son standing there with 23 spaghetti squashes hanging down. And then I do green beans on one. Really good type of green beans to get are Fortex, Fortex. They grow 10 to 12 inches long and they don't get mealy for like a week and a half, FYI. So you can look at Fortex. I love those jeans. Those are awesome. Anyway, Fortex green beans are like those little skinny green beans you buy at Costco, but those are picked early. If you wait a little bit, they'll get 10 inches long. And so you get this, and they grow for a really long time. They have a long growing season, FORTEX. Beautiful long green beans, and they're like really straight. I always post pictures of them when I have them because people are like, wow. So they're my favorite.
Well, I
They're
did
pulled in.
Chinese noodle beans in mine last year, and they were like, oh, some were like a yard long.
Are those the red ones?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have
Ian-
one bean plant.
Ian, can you put that picture up again of the jeans?
Sure.
Take a picture.
So funny. See, you can plant in anything.
That's
That's
really
great.
cute. It's
That
very
is
cute.
great.
You
Yes.
get good ideas from Facebook.
Mhm.
I know Facebook can be depressing, but there are some times when you get good ideas from Facebook and TikTok, by the way, if you're interested in growing food and homesteading, there's a big community on TikTok where you can
There's
learn.
some
things very
great
quickly.
videos. TikTok could be a mind waster, so you gotta be careful about where you go.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, just, and
Yeah.
limit your time because you can just get sucked in and it can create ADHD in you. So just limit your time, but do the discovery button and search for organic, growing food, homesteading, grow your own, like those types of keywords. And then the stuff that will show up will be, better for you. All right, so we
Right.
need to close it. We need to close out. Sorry, it's been, the call's been going long. So we could talk all night about this, but we will be back next Monday. I don't know if we're gonna have an expert on next Monday. If anybody has any suggestions for anybody, or if you yourself wants to be our expert, thank you, Carla, for being on. You want to contribute, we are so open to anybody who has, expertise or knowledge or experience in a certain specific area around growing food. Eventually, later on this summer, maybe July, we'll get into preserving food. So if you know how to ferment, if you know how to use calendula for making soaps, or, goat milk for soap, like things like that, yes, and you're going to be doing an episode. So we will be having experts on like that too. So just that bee in your bonnet. So please recommend to us people who might want to share their skills. We want to
And
hear
I
from
want to
people.
start a section on our website for recipes for all
Yes.
this produce, because I have a
And if
great
you want to
recipe.
contribute, and if anybody on the call wants to contribute to that, you can email myself or Ann, and Ann can put her email. I think most people probably have it, but in the chat box, and you can
Okay.
contribute. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thanks,
And
thanks for letting me yak.
oh,
Thanks for all
oh,
your
no.
greatness, Chief.
so useful, Tammy. It was so beneficial. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tammy. Bye
Yeah.
then.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
This was a great call. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye,
care, you
great
guys.
energy. Bye.
Thanks, Ann, for getting it started. Appreciate it so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.